After an overnight stay at Kathi, we were back on the trail in the morning. Our destination was Dwali, 13 kilometers away and at an altitude of 8,600 feet. The trail leaving Kathi is broad and well maintained as it enters a forest. Today's height gain will be 1,350 feet as we ascend from Kathi, which is at an altitude of 7,250 feet, to Dwali at 8,600 feet. Dwali is about 13 kilometers from Kathi, so we have a long and hard day ahead of us with an ascent of 1,350 feet. The trail cuts through the forest, high above the Pindari River, flowing down in the valley and hidden from our view by the dense foliage. About halfway through the trek, the trail descends to river level, hugging the bank as we trek further up the valley. These steep sections of the trail left us utterly exhausted. After the steep climbs, we had no choice but to find a rock, slump down and wait for the racing heart rate to slow down. While trekking along the river, we caught sight of a settlement on the opposite bank, completely isolated amidst the wilderness. These seasonal homes are used by villagers as temporary shelters when they go out hunting or searching for medicinal herbs. A small settlement of a few huts, where we could buy some tea and biscuits, the only habitation between Kathi and Dwali. We were tempted to halt for the night in this serene surroundings of beautiful meadows dotted with wild flowers. After our short halt, we crossed the Pindari River as the trail now runs along the true right bank. The icy cold waters of the Pindari River tumbles over the boulders as it rushes down the valley, forming small rapids along the way. It is these long gradients at the end of a hard day's trek that prompts you to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Occasional streams tumble out of the undergrowth, giving us an opportunity to not only to quench our thirst, but to splash our faces with its refreshing coolness. For after almost a whole day of walking, the only thing I remember of this final section is that we were dead tired, and every step became a conscious effort. Finally, the Dwali rest house was sighted. Sitting high up on a spur, that final climb to the rest house was going to kill us. The Dwali rest house is located high up on a spur at the junction of the Kafni and Pindar Valley. The Kafni Glacier gives rise to the Kafni River, a tributary of the Pindari River. Whereas the Pindari Glacier, at an altitude of 12,530 feet, gives rise to the Pindari River. At Dwali we have the confluence of the Pindari and the Kafni rivers. The Pindari River flows all the way to Karnaprayag, where it merges with the Alaknanda River. At Devprayag, the Alaknanda meets the Bhagirathi, continuing down the valley as the Ganga. A small stream was a good excuse to pause and finish our morning toiletries. During the summer months, when temperatures soar in the villages at lower altitudes, Gadis take their flock of goats and sheep to the cooler high-altitude pastures. The Gadis live in the high pastures throughout the summer months, and as the winter cold sets in, they move back to the lower villages. As we are now close to 10,000 feet, streams from snow melt becomes common sight. After the winter snows melt away, the spring ushers in lush pastures, ideal fodder for the hundreds of sheep and goats that are brought up here to graze. During these months, ewes give birth to young ones, and the flock grows bigger. The Gaddies term this as fasal, or harvest. As we trekked higher, the trail was lined with rhododendron bushes. Some varieties grow into trees that are several meters tall. Rhododendrons are found in the Himalayas above 8,000 feet. Worldwide, there are about 1,000 species, while in India there are about 80 species. Rhododendrons bloom from late winter to early summer. Locally, they are called baranch. The colors of the blooms varies from reds and shades of purple and blue. A refreshing sherbet is made from these blooms. Trekking at these high altitudes often involves negotiating landslides and glacial streams. This huge, magnificent waterfall is right opposite the Phurkia campsite. Mealtime at Phurkia. Dal and rice with aloo gobi is the staple for most meals, with a smattering of pickles and raw onions. After a hard day's trek, the evening at Phurkia was spent in sublime peace. Early next morning, we started for 0 Point Pindari Glacier at 12,100 feet. Our packs were left behind at Phurkia as we planned to return, pick up the packs and then trek back to Dwali. A misty early morning walk through meadows dotted with pockets of wildflowers. A few smaller flocks of sheep had already moved to the high pastures, taking full advantage of the grazing before the larger flocks come up. The droppings of these animals rejuvenates the soil, fostering the growth of lush meadows. Primulas are a common sight in the moist soil of the high-altitude meadows. They bloom throughout the spring and early summer. There are almost 500 species of primulas, and their colors vary from red, mauve, pink, purple, blue, and yellow. Remnants of the winter snows pack any depressions in the mountainside that are sheltered from the sun. A slip here could take you down a couple of hundred feet and leave you badly bruised. The first views of the glacier region. Glacial erosion has left its mark in the form of deep ravines bounded by steep sides of rubble and boulders. We get our first sighting of Panwali Dwar and Nanda Khat as the golden rays of the early morning sun hits the seracs and ridges and the upper snowfields. Looking back, we could see the path winding up from the valley. Starting from Song, we had been walking along this trail for the last 6 days to finally reach here. Trails Pass links the Pindari Valley to Milam Valley, Lawan Gad. It is considered to be one of the more difficult passes in the Himalayas. A Baba, a sadhu, has been living here for several decades. He plays host to visitors by supplying free, a simple meal and tea. Donations in a dan paiti are welcomed. During the winter months, he travels to various ashrams in the plains, teaches voga, and collects funds which he uses to run the school in Kathi village. The Baba funds several welfare projects in the villages and funds the higher education in the city for deserving village children. This I was able to verify. Nanda Kot, Nanda's fortress, lies just outside the ring of peaks surrounding the Nanda Devi sanctuary. It is considered to be the abode of goddess Parvati. So, after traveling more than 2,500 kilometers, first by train from Mumbai to Delhi, and then by local bus to Haldwani, followed by another bus to Bageshwar, and finally trekking for 6 days, we were able to spend a couple of hours at 12,000 feet, surrounded by towering Himalayan peaks surpassing 21,000 feet in height. Were the brief couple of hours spent at 12,000 feet worth it? Was the journey more satisfying than the destination? What did we gain from the adventure and the hardships that are associated with such adventures? After more than 30 trips to the Himalayas, the only answer I can give is, I don't know, we just keep doing it. While the destination may offer breathtaking views and moments of awe, it's often the journey itself, the experiences, the challenges overcome, the connections made, and the personal struggle that leave the deepest impressions and provide the most profound rewards. After returning to Bageshwar, we continued our travels. From Bageshwar, we visited Chaukori, Berinag, and the underground cave network of Patal Bhuvaneshwar. And finally, before returning home, we spent a few days at Kwasani, Ranikhet, and Nainital.
As you have come this far, then do consider to click on the like and subscribe buttons. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. And if it was worth your while, then do share the video. It helps in expanding the viewership.